Lovey's. Welcome to our cooking day. Today, I'm going to show you a very, very special book, and it has to do with what we're going to bake today. The title of this book is called On the Day You Were Born by Deborah, Frazier. I chose this book because on the day, boys and girls, that you were born, and I was born, and your families and friends were born, you were given a very special name. So I thought it would be fun if we make pretzels. But what's going to be special about our pretzels is they're going to be made with your initials and my initials and the letter of the week, letter Y. An initial, boys and girls, let me give you an example, would be, my name is Tara. The first letter in my name is T. So that would be called an initial. My last name is Garaputo. So the first letter in Garaputo is a G. So my initials are TG. Those are your initials. So while we get started, I want you to think about what your initials are. So what you do is you think about your first name. You say your first name, you think about the letter that your first name starts with, like T for Tara. Then you think about your last name, and you think about the letter that your last name starts with, G for Garaputo. So my initials, boys and girls, are TG. So think about your initials, and we're going to get started. I have a recipe here for pretzels. I have ingredients, say ingredients, and I have the directions. Before I get started, I wanted to mention I preheated the oven. Once again, that means I turned on the oven to 375 degrees. And you want to preheat the oven so that it's warmed up. And then I washed my hands thoroughly with soap and water. So now my oven's preheating, my hands are washed, we can begin. The first ingredient is something very special that you use when we make pretzels. It's called yeast. And when you eat pretzels, they are high and thick. And what makes those pretzels rise is something called yeast. Can you say yeast? And yeast gets measured with measuring spoons. So we have to put in 2 teaspoons. So I look for teaspoons. I found it. And I'm going to put it in this glass to show you what yeast looks like. So we measure, you dip the spoon in, you level it, 1 teaspoon. Another teaspoon makes 2 teaspoons, and a 1/4 teaspoon. So I look on my measuring spoons for 1/4, the littlest spoon. I dip it in, I give it a shake, and I level it. That means it is smooth. Now I have to add warm water to this. So in this measuring cup, it calls for 1½ cups. And I'm just going to put a little bit in this cup for the yeast. 1/4 cup of water goes in to the yeast. You want to make sure the water is warm. And that's what starts activating the yeast. That means it starts to get ready to allow the dough to rise. And you want to give it a nice stir. And yeast smells good. It actually has a smell of a pretzel. And you want to make sure it stirs and stirs and stirs till the yeast is well blended. So the yeast is in here, and 1/4 cup of warm water went in here, and now we put that aside. So now we have to start using our big mixing bowl, and the first thing that goes in here is 4 cups of flour. So I have to measure with my measuring cup 4 cups. This is flour, boys and girls. And let me show you. I look at the number 2. So I want to fill the first cup with 2 cups of flour. Now you pour gently and give it a little shake. And I look for the number 2. It lines up, it levels for 2 cups. In it goes. And boys and girls, 2 plus 2 more equals 4. So a total of 4 cups. Can you say 4 cups? So I measure out a whole nother 2 cups of flour, and I give it a shake, and it is leveled at the line of 2, and in it goes. So now I have my 4 cups of flour, and now the recipe calls for salt, and we just need 1 teaspoon of salt. So I look for my measuring spoons, and I find a teaspoon. And here, boys and girls, is salt. And remember, pour it over the bowl in case a little bit happens to spill. It goes right into the bowl. And carefully and slowly, I measure 1 teaspoon of salt. And it goes. The next ingredient is sugar. Sugar is the next ingredient, and I look for my measuring spoons, and I look for 2 tablespoons of sugar. So boys and girls, here's my sugar. I take my tablespoon and I dip it in once, and it is level to the top, and I pour that in, and I need 1 more. 1 plus 1 equals 2. So I dip my tablespoon in there. I make sure it's level to the very top, and I pour that in. And now it says to start mixing. So I take my big mixing spoon, and I slowly start to mix all the ingredients together. Now that they're mixed, I have to start adding warm water. So the warm water is 1½ cups. Now there's a little bit of flour in here. I'm just going to dump the rest of that in. That way I can take an exact measurement of water. So first I'm going to do 1 cup. So I bend down and I look for the number 1. And it's measured 1 cup. And boys and girls, you slowly pour the water in as you mix. And I mix that up. And then over here is our yeast. And the yeast with water is now ready to go into the bowl. So I'm going to slowly pour just a little bit of the yeast, and I'm going to start mixing. And remember, boys and girls, whenever you're mixing, when you're baking and making things, one of you can mix and another person can hold that bowl, and you share and take turns when you're baking. And it is slowly blending and mixing. I'm going to add some more of my yeast. In it goes. And I'm going to gently mix some more. And what I'm making, boys and girls, is a dough. Can you say dough? And now I'm going to add the rest of my yeast to my dough. And I slowly mix it, and it's starting to clump. Can you say that word, clump? It's starting to clump together. Now that it's thoroughly mixed, I'm going to just use a scraper to get off the dough from the spoon. And now, boys and girls, I have to use my hands. So I'm going to get a little flour on my hands. And it's important to do this so that the dough doesn't stick to your hands. And watch what I have to do. I have to do what's called kneading. Can you say kneading? That means I take my hands and I push down and turn the dough. We are starting to create the beginnings of a real pretzel dough. And I'm just taking the dough and turning and squeezing and turning and pushing and turning and squeezing. And it is so much fun. Now, because I really have to get a good dough going, I just want to show you what it's starting to look like. I have to do it a little more. And boys and girls, when you're making this at home, I want you to take turns. So when it's your turn, I'm going to show you again what you do. You just take a little flour and you sprinkle it on your hands, hold it over the bowl, and get the flour on your hands so it doesn't stick. And you turn and turn and push and turn and push. And now, boys and girls, I'm ready to start pretzel making. And I'm going to show you how we do that. The first initial we're going to make is a T for Tara. And I want to show you how that's done. So I'm going to put a little bit of flour on the table, like that. And I take a piece of the dough. I ripped off a piece, and I'm going to start to squeeze and roll out the letter T. Everybody say T. Tara. That's my first initial. And I make the line going down, and now I have to make the line going across the top. So I take a little piece And if it gets sticky, you just put it in the flour. And I roll it across the top. Now, boys and girls, I have to teach you something special. When you're adding two pieces of your letter together, you have to put holes in it. Just like that. And push down a little bit, and that'll make it stay. Boys and girls, here's my letter T. Now my last name begins with the letter G. So I take a piece, I rip it off. Now to make the letter G an uppercase, capital G, I'm going to show you what I do. I start off by rolling it out with one hand and then two hands. And I keep rolling to make it like a little elongated worm. Two hands. And now watch what I do. I have to form a letter. And it's not easy, but I practice and get better at it. And here, boys and girls, is my letter G. T for Tara, G for Garaputo. Now I know, boys and girls, we've been working on the letter Y. Y, yolk, yellow, yo-yo. I'm going to make the letter Y. So I put a little flour on the table, and when I make a Y, you have to think about what an uppercase Y looks like and how you write a Y, and that's how you can create your initials and letters of the alphabet. So you take two hands, and boys and girls, I'm just going back and forth and back and forth. Here's the beginnings of my Y. And I take another piece, and I'm going to add on to the letter Y. And here's the other piece of the Y. I use my fork, boys and girls, and I make, so I have to attach it. So here's my Y, and I have to attach it. So I take a fork, and I poke holes in it, and I push down. And here is my letter Y. And I'm going to do a couple of more initials. One of my daughter's names is Julia. Boys and girls, does anybody know what letter Julia starts with? If you said J, you are correct. So I'm going to make an uppercase J for Julia. That is her initial. So I take the dough, I use two hands, and I roll out the beginnings of a J. And now I need the top. So I rip off a piece of pretzel, and I first can start rolling it in my hands. And then I make a J. There you go. Whoop, I forgot to add the fork. And the last letter I want to make is an S. So I take out my dough, and boys and girls, S is for Sarah. I have two daughters, J for Julia, and S is for Sarah. So I'm going to roll out one piece and make an S. And now, in order to bake it, it says to get a baking tray and butter it up, grease it up. So I've already done that. And now, boys and girls, gently and carefully, put these letters on a baking tray, and I have to go put it in the oven for 15 minutes. So let me put these in the oven. I have to open the oven door. Here we go. And I have to set the timer for 15 minutes. Okay, the timer is set. Now, boys and girls, while the pretzels are baking, I'm going to read you a story. On the Day You Were Born by Deborah Frazier. On the day you were born. On the eve of your birth, word of your coming passed from animal to animal. The reindeer told the Arctic terns, who told the humpback whales, who told the Pacific salmon, who told the monarch butterflies, who told the green turtles, who told the European eel, who told the busy garden warblers, and the marvelous news migrated worldwide. While you waited, your tiny knees curled to your chin, the earth and her creatures, with the sun and the moon, all moved in their places, each ready to greet you the very first moment of the very first day you arrived. On the day you were born, the round planet Earth turned toward your morning sky, whirling past darkness, spinning the night into light. On the day you were born, gravity's strong pull held you to the earth with the promise that you were going to be here on Earth. While deep in space, the burning sun set up towering flames, lighting your sky from dawn until dusk. On the day you were born, the quiet moon glowed and offered to bring a full, bright face on it each month to your windowsill. And here's the phases of the moon. While high above the North Pole, Polaris, the North Star glittering, stood still, shining light in the sky. On the day you were born, the moon pulled the ocean, causing tides, and your footprints went into the sand, and the rain and water drops landed on the earth. On the day you were born, a forest of tall trees collected the sun's light in their leaves and gave us oxygen for us to breathe. While close to your skin and as high as the sky, air rushed in and blew about, all protecting planet Earth. On the day you were born, the earth turned the moon, pulled the sun with a push, and out you came. Your family were in a circle, singing songs with voices familiar and clear. Welcome to the spinning world, the people sang as they watched your new tiny hands. Welcome to green earth, the people sang as they held you close. We are so glad you've come. Hooray! The end. And boys and girls, you are special. And you have a name and initials. Now, I'm going to show you what you can do with the pretzels. In the recipe, it calls for an egg. So you crack an egg into the bowl and you mix it up. And if you want, boys and girls, you add egg onto the pretzel and you brush it on top. So while they're cooking, I'm going to just quickly show you what you could do. So I'm going to make a tea for Tara. And here's a paintbrush, but it's only used for cooking. And you dip it in the yolk and you gently paint the top of the pretzel. I hear the timer. Oh my goodness. Let me go check on our pretzels. They smell delicious. I'm taking them out. Turning that timer off. Getting my oven mitts. Oh my goodness, boys and girls. Wait till you see our pretzels. Oh my goodness. Oh, whoa, look at those pretzels. Let's take a look at our initials. T for Tara, G for Garaputo. Initials, first name, last name. J for Julia, one of my daughters. S for Sarah, my other daughter. Initials. And Y for the letter of the week. There is our alphabet letter Y. And they are finished. And boys and girls, today we did our pretzel initials. And remember, boys and girls, if you want your pretzel to have some shine on it before it goes in the oven, just take an egg and a paintbrush, this is my cooking brush, and gently put it on top. And if you want, you can add salt on top too. And I'll just show you how to do that. So you just sprinkle a little bit of coarse salt on top, just like that. So boys and girls, here's our initials. So much fun. So easy to do. Thank you for joining us. I believe and predict it's going to be a beautiful warm day today. So go out and play and enjoy the day. I'll see you soon.